What's going on YouTube? My name is Carletonmaybell, aka True Music, and today I'm going to show you how to create Summer Walker type chord progressions. Her chord progressions feel so good because they create this tension and then they resolve, right? So that's a very important concept: tension and resolution. Tension and resolution. Tension and resolution. All right, so we're going to go over how to use tension and resolution to create these Summer Walker type chord progressions. Let's get into it. One of the best chords that you can use to create tension is the dominant 7 chord. Now, I want you to know every key has one dominant 7 chord that you can use naturally that fits in the scale. And so in any major scale, that is the 5. So I'm going to use the key of C to explain this. Basically, in the key of C, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is your G. This means that your G is a dominant 7 chord. All right. And so, like I said, every major key has one dominant 7 chord that naturally fits in the scale, and that is the 5. Now, in the key of C, our 5 is G. So G is our dominant 7 chord. Now, what is a dominant 7 chord? Basically, it's a major chord with a minor 7. All right, that makes up our dominant 7 chord. And it's also important to know that your dominant 7 chord naturally transitions nicely to the 1. So in the key of C major, this dominant 7 to the 1, we have tension and resolution. That's all we want. Now, what Summer Walker does is use dominant chords from other keys to resolve to certain chords in her scale. For example, in the song I'll Kill You, the progression goes like this. I'm playing it in the key of C major just to keep it simple. Right? That's the progression. Now, if you look at it, you can kind of notice that this chord doesn't fit in the key of C major. And you can tell because it has a black key and there's no black keys in C major. So how does this chord fit? Well, it is a secondary dominant chord. A secondary dominant chord is when you use the 5 dominant chord of another note in your scale other than the 1. So for example, our G dominant 7 fits because it is the 5 dominant 7 of the 1, which is C. But if you look at Summer Walker's progression, if you look at it closely, you'll notice that she's using the 5 dominant 7 of the A, right? Which is E. So if we look at A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, its 5 is E, which means we can use the E dominant 7 to take us to A, because it's really just a 5 dominant 7 going to a 1. But if you notice, it's the 5 dominant 7 of another note other than C, which is the key we're in. We're in the key of C. And so that is a secondary dominant chord. And it sounds really good because when you play the progression, this chord creates the tension and it resolves really nicely. All right. So that's one example of using your 5 dominant 7 of a different note to get you to that note. Now, one of the rules is that you can use the 5 dominant 7 of any of the notes in your scale except for the 7, because the 7 is naturally very dissonant. And so you can't use a dominant 7, which is dissonant, to get you to another chord that's dissonant, because it's just clash and it's just weird. But that's one example of using a dominant 7 that's outside of your scale to transition you to another note. That is the theory behind it. It's called a secondary dominant. Now, that kind of secondary dominant that I just used is called a functioning secondary dominant because it resolves to its 1, right? This E dominant 7 is resolving to its 1, which is A. But you have other kinds of dominant 7 chords that don't resolve to their 1, and those are considered non-functioning dominant chords. Now this is where things get kind of weird, right? Because we had a basic rule, but now we're breaking that rule. But to give you an example, Summer Walker does this in her song I'll Kill You as well. So it goes like this. Right? If you notice, E dominant 7 is not the 5 of F, but it still sounds good, and that is considered a non-functioning dominant 7 chord. So you can take a dominant 7 and resolve to a different chord and it still work, and it's still considered a secondary dominant chord. So that's where things get a little odd, because now we're kind of altering the rules. But as a quick tip to you, the 3 dominant 7 sounds very good when it's going to the 4 major 7, and it also sounds good when it's going to the 6 minor 7. All right, so just keep that in mind. But I want to give you another example of a secondary dominant chord that's non-functioning but still sounds good. And this comes from a Jhené Aiko song. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember that this progression. And so it sounds like this. You know, that still sounds good because we're on our 1. Then we do a 2 dominant 7 to our 3. You get what I'm saying? So these dominant chords are something that you can play with to create tension and resolution and really make your progressions more unique and more advanced. And so I hope I explained this technique to you very clearly, and I hope that I helped you. This is just one way that you can get closer to that Summer Walker feel, and it gets you very close. But there are other techniques that I plan on explaining in the future. In the meantime, I challenge you to experiment with these secondary dominant chords and let me know what you find that sounds good. And if you need any help, you know how to get in touch with me. You can email me or you can leave a comment. And with that being said, I hope I helped you learn something new today. If you're a producer or a beat maker and you don't want to learn the theory, but you want to have loads of chord progressions to use in your songs, I have packs on my website full of MIDI chord progressions that allow you to just drag them in and create songs like that in minutes. And it's all royalty free. I'll have the link to that in the description as well. And I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.